Well, we will go ahead and get started. Um, okay, so, thanks for attending, everyone. My name is Summer, and I'm a former high school world history teacher, and I've been a curriculum specialist with Social Studies School Service for the last 6 years. And I'm joined today by, Lori, whom we've already met, and then Christina. So Lori, you handle Delaware. What are the other areas that you handle?
A lot of the Northeast, Maryland, Virginia, Pennsylvania, DC. So I'm in Delaware.
All the fun places.
All the fun beach places.
Yep.
Christine is the other beach places.
Yeah, I'm out of Atlanta and I have the southeastern part of the United States. South Carolina, North Carolina, Alabama, Georgia, and Florida.
Well, we are going to be looking at current events today in the form of news stories and stories told by other. This is information that is constantly coming at students. And while the idea of social justice is not novel to 2020, significant events this year have put a spotlight on everyday injustice that we see. So students are talking about the events because they have been personally relevant to them, which often is really heartbreaking. But at the same time, it gives us the opportunity because a conversation can be started. And so this is really the best time to start looking at how we can use current events to teach history. So just to get a feel for the room on your experience with using current events, Darren, I know you said that you are a supervisor, but maybe if you've been in the classroom or y'all have your curriculum, I created this little poll that if you just want to go ahead and complete, or the other ones in here want to go ahead and complete, we will put that up. Okay, so we've got a little bit toe dip, maybe some experience with the using current events, and yes, it's a 2021 yet. I'm laughing. I wrote these. I was very up late last night, tired, and sometimes when the right words don't come, other words do come. So. Okay, so today this is kind of, a good introduction, and we can see this is something you can take back to share with your teachers. So we believe that a lesson can be really enriched by adding a current event. Today, we're going to see that it's important to illustrate how current events are most often only one section of the larger arc of history. And so being able to help students see events as part of, a broader timeline helps students identify historical patterns, build a strong connection between past and present, and display patterns of cause and effect over time. So fun fact, this is my son, he's 13. He relies way too heavily on TikTok as a news source, like I think most kids do today. And, often I'll pick him up from school and he'll get in the car and make some bold claim about what he believes, whatever the political or social topic is of the day. And again, it's coming from TikTok, so I'm trying to not roll my eyes at it. But one of the things that I usually say as we start kind of exploring the ideas behind his belief is, remember the iceberg. And this is just kind of our way of, my way of explaining to him that there's always something more under the surface. So even if you don't see it immediately or like a statement, that you should always be curious and a little bit cautious about taking stuff at face value. We've also had lots of conversations that end, and this is why 13-year-olds aren't allowed to vote for that very reason. So, the iceberg metaphor is not original by any means. But I think it's a really great way to help students visualize the context. And I think that's especially true when we look at, social justice movements. So we should always be asking, how did we get here from there? Because there's something buried underneath all that's happened. So today, just real quickly, I'm going to give you a couple of example activities from a series we have. It's aptly named Current Events, and tell you how to access these ready-to-go resources. Oh, this was also, I'm pretty sure it didn't happen like this. I found this cartoon. So one social justice issue that's been on everyone's mind is voting. So voting rights are a recurring theme in US and in world history, but it can be hard for students in the 21st century to care about women's suffrage, an event that we celebrated 100 years this year, or really be able to kind of make the connection between why women's suffrage is important as we talk about ideas of voter suppression and voter fraud, and just, rights of who has to vote. And this is a season that women's suffrage had a large part in kind of getting to where we are today. So to help make this topic more relevant to students, I would start a lesson based around the current conversation of, should we change the voting age from 18 to 16? So for the sake of time, I'm not going to walk through the whole lesson that I have for this current event. It actually starts kind of looking at essential questions, and then there's a reading and a class discussion. But kind of part two, we're going to take a look at real quick with a video that I'm going to show you, a snippet from it. And then Lori's going to place in the chat box what a video guide is that goes with this. So, just like helping students have intention while reading, giving them kind of an overview guide that helps them have intention about what they should be looking at while they're watching. And then
when you turn 18, our society generally considers you an adult. You can join the military, you're eligible for jury duty, you can get that sweet tattoo that we all know you'll regret in 5 years. And of course, you gain the right to vote. That's when you finally get a say in how this country works. But over the past few years, with movements like Black Lives Matter and the March for Our Lives, we've seen young people under the age of 18 put pressure on lawmakers to take action on serious issues that affect them, like police brutality and gun violence. Combine that with the fact that at 16 you can work, pay taxes, and even be tried as an adult for some crimes, and it's pretty obvious that the country's laws have an impact on nearly everyone well before they can cast their vote. Maybe we need to rethink the voting age. Should 16-year-olds be allowed to vote? Okay, so voting may not seem like a big deal, especially since there are a ton of eligible voters out there that don't vote. I'm looking at you, millennials. But it's kind of awesome that in America, voting is a right. I mean, 40% of the world doesn't even have the option to vote, which means they don't have a say in their government. However, the laws governing who can vote and who can't have evolved over time. When the Constitution was ratified in 1788, there was no mention of a voting age. Instead, pretty much every state requires you to be at least 21 and a land-owning white Christian male. No, not Christian Bale. Well, I mean, that works too. By 1830, most states had abolished the property and religion requirements, so if you were white, male, and at least 21, you could vote. Then, in the years after the Civil War, things really started to change. In 1868, former slaves were guaranteed citizenship with the passing of the 14th Amendment. 2 years later, the 15th Amendment guaranteed black males the right to vote, although their voting rights were actively suppressed for decades, and even still today. Then came the women. After years of activism, they won the right to vote in 1920 with the passage of the 19th Amendment. In 1965, the Voting Rights Act prohibited racial discrimination of any kind in voting. So by the late 60s, finally, everyone 21 and over could actually vote in the US. But the journey doesn't end there, folks. The late 60s was the peak of the Vietnam War. The US government drafted thousands of 18 to 21-year-old men. Protesters argued that if you were old enough to die for your country, you should be able to vote in it too. So in 1971, Congress approved and then the states ratified the 26th Amendment, which guarantees voting rights to any American citizen 18 or older. Okay, So why not lower the voting age even lower to 16? Why not keep evolving? Well, going from 21 to 18 is a way easier sell than going from 18 to 16. Some critics say that 16-year-olds aren't mature enough or have enough life experience. After all, most are high schoolers, legally required to attend school, and generally are dependent on their family for food, clothing, and shelter. I mean, when I think back to my 16-year-old self and my classmates, do I really trust them to make informed political decisions?
So you can see, were you able to open up the video guide, Darren?
I downloaded it. I didn't open it though.
Okay, so, well, just so you know that there is a place where they will be, kind of recording, some of that history timeline.
But are they doing that? Are they doing that through while they're watching it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Just because we, again, like with the idea of having them be intentional about, hey, these are the things you should be looking for.
Yeah, sure.
And so, the video goes on to explain the pros and con arguments for changing the voting age, even citing science of child development and case studies. And then the activity ends with some breakout or full class discussions. One of the questions, that switched real fast, being, at 16, young people can work, pay taxes, and be tried as adults. Why do you support this and why not? So after they've gone through that, the next part, we do really look at things like the C3, and in that dimension 4, it's all about taking action, right? And so I think even if this isn't a specific standard, it's a really good way to help keep students involved. So what I kind of created on this was having them do a social media campaign that either supports or is against the lowering the voting age. And Lori is going to post that outline. I'm just going to create a generic one that students can use. Oh my gosh, can you hear the dog? So this is kind of the template, but I think creating the social media, especially when the fact is they're getting a lot of their news from social media,
Right.
is important for them to kind of see what it is behind the scenes, I would say. So with this activity, students would begin with the end in mind by identifying the resulting action targets. So what is it that they want students or people to do as a result of seeing or experiencing their social media campaign? Buy something, do they want them to vote a certain way? The next thing they look at is their target audience. We're a diverse country, so, in order to achieve your target action, who is it that you need to be talking to? You need to be aware of your audience. For example, when you watch YouTube, the ads are not random. There's actually a very scary algorithm that has been picked out specifically based on, your internet search and things like that. If you haven't seen The Social Dilemma, you definitely should, because it will scare you.
I was thinking of that.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, having a moment to kind of say, okay, like, this is intentional and it's not going to appeal to everybody. And then really focusing on what the primary message is. What is it that you want people to internalize as a result of seeing your campaign? I also have up there the hashtags. So one of the things that my students struggled with, and I think students do today, is this idea of summary or main idea. And I think hashtags can be a way to kind of speak their language with them. And so, telling students, hey, hashtags should be catchy. They can be explicit statements of the campaign, like Black Lives Matter, or they could just be in a reference, Me Too was a movement. So I like that from almost an ELA point of view, helping them really get down that main idea. And then sketches for social media posts. You know, although social media platforms differ a little bit. So, you know, if you're going to be on TikTok, it needs to be a video. Okay, what's going to be in that video? Or if it's Instagram, you know, what is the image that you're really going to project? And so having them, you know, draw it or kind of write a quick description. I think this is also a really great opportunity for differentiation for students, you know, especially if you know, you're talking about ELL students that maybe, you know, writing is hard, but yeah, we can draw the picture. And then if I was a really ambitious teacher, honestly, with this activity, I might even turn it into a quick simulation of, you know, each group is a PR firm and they have to pitch their campaign. You know, competition is always healthy in the classroom to get students motivated. But we are definitely in history class, right? So, you know, we've gone over the timeline, we've kind of gone over that topic, and now how do we transition it back into the historical event that we're talking about, which, you know, in this case was women's suffrage. And I would kind of flip the script at this point and make it an inquiry activity. So giving students, you know, an abundance of primary source images and texts or artifacts, and then letting them kind of become the detectives. So maybe even putting them in a specific date range and letting students evaluate, okay, what were the political campaigns of the day? You know, and kind of going by the same template, the same standards of what was the message they were trying to do and who were they targeting? You know, because even Victoria Woodall, you know, didn't have Twitter, but she certainly had an agenda when it came to, you know, running for president. So that's just kind of a quick overview of, you know, one of our current events lessons. We have these on our digital platform, Active Classroom, and here is kind of a list of some of the ones that we have in there available. I know, you know, teachers don't have a lot of time, so what's great is, you know, we've kind of prepared already all the resources and things to walk students through this historical connection to current events. I mean, I really just, you know, think of the great historical connections you can make with lessons like domestic terrorism and Shays Rebellion, or the Native American land jurisdiction and studying the Trail of Tears. You know, these are all really great opportunities to get students involved. Plus, we add new lessons all the time, every month they're being updated. And some of the other areas that you can see, and just nice from products that we really do try to make this connection for students, is even our Atlas of World History. I love, we have kind of a whole lesson about should everyone be free to publish anything they want, after students have been working in the unit about Renaissance and the Enlightenment. So kind of comparing to today's arguments over that. So like I said, current events is one of our series on our our platform, Active Classroom, which provides engaging multimodal lessons for secondary students. It's an easy to use interface that is perfect for distance learning and face-to-face. You know, like I said, even the activity we did, current events today, could definitely be adapted online or having students work on it in class together. We have national and state subscriptions that are available in the content areas you see here. So Darren, I'm glad that you were with us today. Lori is actually going to attach the whole teacher's guide of the current events lesson in the chat box. And this kind of goes over the teacher's guide and includes all the student handouts for, you know, doing the parts of the voting age lesson that we didn't even get to today. But if you want to see other lessons or learn more about Active Classroom, we're also going to put this link in the chat box. So you can go on and look at Active Classroom and then talk to Lori about signing up for a trial, and she can show you more of the different current events lessons that we have in there. So that is basically it. We didn't want to make this too long, but Darren, do you have any questions?
I think the challenge with bringing in current events is the slant that it comes with. So, you know, looking at just in what's in the news right now, is Joe Biden the president-elect? Is the vote rigged and President Trump was reelected by a landslide? Like, I think depending on if I'm getting my news from Fox News, it's going to tell me one thing. If I'm getting it from MSNBC, it's another thing. So how do you balance that and offer the topic and then allow kids to explore to come up with their own understanding of the topic?
Well, and I think that's kind of the gift that we provide with this series is really, you know, we're an education company, you know, it's not an agenda. We're we're the only company that's really dedicated to social studies education. And so we, you know, I think we do a good job of really presenting just the facts as they're laid out, and then providing lots of resources, videos from different, you know, if it's a news platform or whatever it is, definitely being more selective about not, you know, not it's a balancing act, right? So having it balanced, and I think leaving a lot of open-ended questions of, hey, here are the resources, watch this video, let's make sure that you kind of comprehend what's going on in each of the videos, and then, okay, how can we take this and what, allowing that conversation to happen with students. And so, you know, we provide that kind of all set up so teachers don't have to be thinking about it all the time or building these for themselves. But Lori or Christina, do you have anything to add?
I think you explained it perfectly. Very not.
I was just going to say it's more so about, I mean, I think our materials, we do go in with developing materials that sort of represent all views.
Okay.
But I think it's more, it's not so much about literally the content, it's the process they get to, you know, it's
draw their own conclusion.
It's the skills that they're learning throughout the lesson that allow them to stand up and say, this is what I believe and this is why I believe it. And for their counterpart or their coworker, their fellow student, not to jump down their throat and say, I don't agree with that and I don't like you as a result, but to really foster those good conversations and those good conversation skills. You know, because I think we're very keyed into the fact that we do, like you said earlier, we want students to be good, active citizens. I think there's a lot of that missing in the world right now. And so even, you know, content is very important, but I think the skills, the life skills that they're learning, how do I present an argument? How do I do my research, not just accept what the goofy guy on TikTok said? You know, how do I, you know, look into that and not just believe what Fox News says or what CNN says, you know, but I need to do a little bit of research myself, because I think that's where we are in the world today. So I think more importantly is it's the skills that they're learning, and these lessons kind of walk them through that foundation of learning those skills.
Going back to my iceberg example, you know, okay, hey, this is what we're seeing right now at this point in time, but there's always something underneath that is, they're coming from that position to get to the result that you see on top. So I think, yeah, like Christina said, let's focus on the historical, what leads up to that, and letting students draw their own conclusions.
Okay.
And outside of this, this particular series, there's over 200 series in Active Classroom that you would be privy to. But besides that, some of the most valuable ones are the ones where they're looking at primary sources and they have to decide from a historian's point of view, you know, which of these primary sources would you think represents this content the best? Why? And then why didn't you choose the other one?
Okay.
So again, thinking through those arguments and really being able to present, you know, based on the content, kind of form their opinion with some fact. So you'll be able to see that if you go ahead and get just a trial, month-long trial, you'll be able to get in there and play with it.
Okay.
So,
Great. Thank you.
you're welcome.
Awesome.
Thank
Well,
you,
Darren,
Darren.
we're so excited that you came today. I know it's a big ask on a Saturday with a virtual conference.
Yeah, no, this is good. I'm glad I had nothing in my schedule, and I was going through the exhibit hall, and I came across your company. I thought I was just going through the list, and it just happened to work perfectly that this topic was of interest and it fit the schedule. So I'm really glad I
Appreciate it.
clicked on it.
I'll reach out to you, Darren, on email, so you have my email, and then we can
Oh, perfect.
pick a time to talk.
That'd be
That's
great.
okay.
I appreciate that. Thanks, Lori.
Right. And hope you have a great rest of the weekend.
All right. Thanks. You too.
Thank you.
Take care.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks a lot.